Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode. Great, well, good afternoon, everybody. We're here today with Alasdair Moore of IDS Group. Another business interview, just talking with successful local businesses on how they've managed and changed and coped through the current situation. Obviously, we're just going into a new phase of the situation. So, Alasdair, it'd be great if you would be kind of just introduce yourself to anyone watching, what you do, how you do it, what makes you different, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, Chris. That's very kind. As Chris just said, I'm Alasdair Moore. I'm the CEO of the IDS Group. The IDS Group has been operating now since 2015, so we're just approaching into our 6th year. We started off as an organisation that provided software testing, quality assurance solutions in the mainstream around technical solutions, so automating processes when it comes to testing to take away those bottlenecks. And the kind of clients we generally work with, and I can't say some of them due to NDAs, but we are mainly in the health sector, healthcare, finance, retail, and we kind of help companies get to that space where they can use a DevOps framework and continuous delivery lifecycle. We also have a business called iData, which is a data quality product, which helps businesses get to a state where they can get their data quality as accurate and as clean and as rich as it can be, which then obviously helps insights like AI, also things like, I suppose, machine learning, and also it helps people move data from one legacy system to a new system. And then we've got a new company that started up it was March the 30th, because I remember that because COVID was just about to happen. And that was a company called iGira, which is helping companies mature their capabilities around the Atlassian estate. So it helps people get more mature, get more insight, optimize the solution, which many companies struggle with in sense of dashboards and visualizations. Wowzers.
So
yeah, overall picture.
Fantastic. My previous business before becoming a coach was a tech business. It was software and solutions in the power industry. So
okay.
Well, I'm afraid that that's very old knowledge now. So I still would very unlikely understand most of what you would tell me if we got into too much detail. So please don't take that as any sort of indication of knowledge on my part.
No. As I said, I'm the CEO side. So the brain side, Mr. Breers is the CTO. He's much more technical. I understand it from a business and resolve situation, but definitely not hands-on in the weeds. As I said.
That's good. Well, that's great. It's always good to have a good CTO, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
So look, I mean, I'm really interested to know, just looking back over the last 6 months, 9 months, how has the COVID outbreak and the previous situation, the current situation, affected you in the business?
So prior to COVID-19, we were actually actively telling our clients that we wanted to service them from a remote perspective or off-site perspective. Not knowing, obviously, COVID was around the corner and not wanting COVID to occur. But the way we could work more effectively is having a collaboration of our internal teams, giving a solution out to our clients. And what I mean by that is we've got over 30 consultants with combined experience of, hundreds of years. And they've all seen something and can give advice to the other on what they've seen and how they'd approach it to get a better result for the end client.
Yep.
So to have them disbanded around kind of caused us issues because they couldn't have that kind of internal communication.
Yep.
So we built a central lab in Manchester 4 years ago. And we're telling most of our clients, look, use the lab process and model. It's so much better for you. It's efficiencies. There's innovation that comes out of it. The old water cooler kind of conversation that occurs, but more concentrated.
Right.
So prior to COVID, we were really pro setting up our business to enable us to work remotely. So when COVID actually kicked in, everybody went, oh, what do we do now? The offices shut. We were very well set up to have our consultants work remotely. And to the point of one of our programs, the NHS, before we're like, no, you cannot work remotely, you cannot do this, we can't communicate, it will fall over. Do you know what? They've actually seen an improvement and a reduction in cost due to remotely. So from that perspective, we touch wood, we have been very, very fortunate in that respect.
Wonderful. And how have you seen that, come through into results of the business, and what are you doing now that's different to that point?
Right. So it's accelerating that. So we've taken COVID as an opportunity to step back and see where our gaps are and see where our flaws are. From a delivery perspective, we're up there with the top names. In fact, we do actually come in and support businesses that have brought in other organisations who have failed, find out why they failed, and then start that process again and actually get it working. So we know we've got a good core team of engineers and management to enable that. One of our weaknesses has been more on the marketing and sales front, and also we had a very much disjointed software and product process to support our infrastructure. So we had Xero for accounts, we had a system called ETZ for timesheet systems, we had HubSpot as a marketing CRM. So it was all very disjointed. So to try and get the data and the analytics out of that to see where we could help customers more, it just wasn't working.
Yep.
So we've taken this period to review loads of different systems. We've looked at SAP, we've looked at Oracle, Microsoft. We've actually gone with a system called Zoho, which is a bit of a punt because it's a new product to the marketplace.
Yep.
It's not fully finished, shall we say, but we're willing to take that risk because we've seen them as a startup and they've got that vision that we have. Everything in one place, you can join all the dots, as it were, in a line. So we've done that. Marketing and sales wise, and I'm sure many other business owners feel this pain, it was always predominantly myself and the other co-founder selling the business, as well as trying to run the business, as well as getting tangled in the day-to-day. So we rolled the dice as COVID started, because we set up a strategy before it saying what we're going to do is bring on a head of marketing.
Great.
For each business. We're going to look to see how we can rejuvenate our website, how we can do lead generation, and also understand who our true customer is. I think, and I hope we're not the only one, I'm sure we're not the only ones out there, but we kind of went, let's just sell, land grab what we can, without actually going, who needs us, who wants us, who is that ideal base? And we've been going through that process now, and we're coming out the other side. So I suppose what we've taken from COVID is taking that time out to really relook at ourselves and go, right, how can we improve? And the results aren't coming through yet. I hope if you interviewed me again in 6 months' time, I'd say, yeah, they're coming through. I think it's great. Yeah.
I'm sure they will. I mean, the great thing is, as you say, it's good to take advantage of the situation and build. But, I always been the idea of slowing down to speed up. So the step back and you're right. I mean, I find it's very different. Running a business and growing it are actually two different things. So, we can do them as the same person. We can do them, but it's really important we allocate times to do both, as opposed to try and mix it all together, because it just doesn't work. In general, because the principles of running it are different to the principles of growing it, and sometimes are conflicting. So sometimes we've got to take a step back and decide which we want to do right now. So that's brilliant. So what sort of adaptation? You obviously talked about bringing the lab, online, etc. But what other adaptations have you either chosen to or had to deliver over the last 6 months?
So again, it was really ensuring that our technical infrastructure could support what our service was. So again, it's looking at getting simple things like we had a product called Ring Central in, which is very good, but not many customers had that. And when you're dealing with things like banks, healthcare, they've got very stringent security measures. So we had to transfer to things like Teams or Zoom, like we're using today. So it was really kind of realigning our technical stack to represent what we needed to be able to service our clients, to deliver that continuity of service. The other thing we had to do was implement a process where we brought our community together, because everybody's working remotely, they can feel a little bit left out. So we started doing things like every Monday and Friday, we call them stand-up calls, but I'm sure people might call them town hall calls, but within individual teams. So we had that kind of feedback of information coming back up to the top, and myself and James, we look through that and understand what people are trying to achieve, if they have achieved it, why they haven't achieved it, and how we can support them as a business through that. So it's that kind of community feel. We also do a Friday drink up, 5 o'clock, glass of wine, talk about anything but work. Strange conversations come out of that, I must admit, but it brings that kind of community feel. And then we kind of try to engage with our clients on their ones as well. Like there's a legal network, and they did a pub quiz for a bit, so we got involved with that, and those kind of out of the box type of things. And again, they came up with some very strange conversations. But again, it was good to see them outside of the working environment, which you don't really get prior to COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving, working with people from their houses, and you just see the family, the kids come in, or the dogs, and some people are challenged by it, but I just think it's really nice to actually know the person behind the name, the badge, etc. And it's been wonderful, in my opinion. I know one or two people that it doesn't work for. That's okay, but for me, it's great. So, what would you say the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
Customer expectations, and also customer decision making. I know from looking at the data we have from our business, customers are not looking at longevity, they're looking very in the short term. So where we were getting PO, and I don't know how everybody else's business work, but in the general, our statement of work or our POs were 6 months to a year. Now they've shrunk to a month to 3 months in some cases. I think that's all down to the kind of inconsistency, not knowing what's going on around Brexit, what's going on around COVID moving forwards. So there are all these obstacles in the way, and it's the hardest battle was saying to the customer, look, the longer you leave this, there's going to be a pipeline build up, and that pipeline is going to get blocked. Not only that, is everybody else is doing the same as you. So if you want to get a lot of stuff done in 2021, there won't be enough consultants or bodies on the ground to be able to do the work in the first place. But not only that, you probably rush and buy the wrong consultancy in to do the work, which means you have to redo it again in 6-12 months and increasing cost. So it's getting that polite messaging across to the client. That's been the hardest part of actually, and education is the wrong word, because they're all kind of sat on the fence going, what do I do? And there was a thing on LinkedIn I read recently that there's that kind of feeling of a lot of C-suites at the moment where they feel like they're false, as in they're not doing their role properly.
Yes.
And that was a LinkedIn. So it's not my theory, by the way. Anybody out there who's a C-suiter, but there was a LinkedIn comment saying there's a lot of people feeling that they're fake because they don't seem to be able to make decisions. But I think their hands have been tied quite a lot, especially organisations with lots of stakeholders or shareholders. They've been like, cut costs, get rid of people, furlough, which is all great now, but I think the knock-on effect, February, March, not good. But good for some businesses. I think there's plenty of opportunity arising.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love quotes. I love quoting other people, and one of my favourites is Henry Ford's "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." But I've actually gone further back. I mean, that's like 90 years old, but I've gone further back recently. There's a great quote from Charles Darwin in The Origin of Species, talking about evolution, and he says it's not the strongest or the most intelligent of the species that survive; it's the ones that are most adaptable to change. And I think what you've done, and we've experienced that with quite a few clients we work with, is one of the principles we have is make it easy to buy. And if just because I used to buy things in 6-month or 12-month blocks, that may be less easy now. So if I make it easy to buy, make it a 1-month or 2-month block, that doesn't mean I won't buy 12 months, but I might need to buy it in smaller chunks. And that ability to move, I think the pivot's been used a lot in lots of different ways, but just change and say, what do you need it to be like? If we can get that right, then people are still out there buying, a lots of products and services and from lots of different organisations if it's in the way they want to buy it. So I totally get it. And we've seen that sort of decision making is more difficult. I guess, there's that the challenge of being more remote. So it's not like we can all sit around together. Zoom works, but, if you're making a big decision, a lot of people like to be in the same room. So that's great. Okay, well, that's wonderful. So I know you said you're waiting, you know, there is an element of waiting for some things to come, but I'm sure, you know, from the way you're talking, there's been some, you know, some wins in your business and with your teams, etc. What would be the sort of highlights of the last 6 months?
One of the biggest highlights, and I know many people go, is it really a highlight? But for us, it really has been eye-opening in the sense of we've restructured our business just from a structure perspective, and we've actually employed people during COVID. So we brought in the head of marketing. We've also brought in a new head of technical delivery. And the fear of, we were like, oh, we're hiring and, you know, what's going on, COVID, gosh, you know, are we risking this kind of cash flow into these roles? What they've brought to the table has way outweighed, they probably asked for a pay rise now, won't they? But it's way outweighed, just shot myself in the foot, but it's way outweighed that risk. And it is, as business people, it's all about risk and reward, isn't it? And the reward has way outweighed that risk.
Brilliant.
And the win for us, it's brought James and I a bit more out of those weeds and actually, right, how do we want to move this forward? What do we need to do it? And they've taken on some of those strains that we had previously. So, and again, what you said earlier about making things bite-sized and palatable about pricing, again, an old phrase is keep it simple, stupid, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Polite version without the stupid bit, obviously. But again, that's enabled us to get things more simple and actually for us to step back and analyse things and go, right, how do we break this down from process perspective, delivery perspective, client perspective, and where are those gaps by getting everything simple again? That has been a major, major win for us to actually be able to do that. And and a lot of people go, how's that a win? That's not generating revenue. It will do for sure. That return will be there. And that's been great for us.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, we our founder, Brad Triggers, talks a lot about the word leverage. And one of the definitions is divide to multiply. Break things into its smallest parts, work on each of them to improve, and you get a massive uplift in improvement. So, and as you said, the opportunity that this situation has given us is great, just to be, you know, be reflective and planning rather than just reactive and fearful. I think Warren Buffett's great phrase was it be bold when people are fearful and fearful when people are bold.
Absolutely, yeah, the old overconfidence thing. Yeah,
and it, you know, it is. You know, because people are being, you know, there has been a lot of fear out there. That means a lot of procrastination. So the organisations that choose to move faster, change, and take the opportunity we're seeing flourishing time and again. You know, you know, some have had to change slightly, some have had to change totally, but they, you know, the ones that are comfortable and are adapting to that change are thriving right now. So it's great to hear that's working for you. So it'd be interesting just in terms of speed of change. If you were to go back to the 1st of March, what might you have done sooner?
Well, that's a good question because you never get the opportunity to turn back time, do you?
I know. It's useful for just the learning. It's just a reflection.
I'd probably say to everybody, COVID's coming and you need to get on board with doing service delivery from remotely and have that sales pitch there already in place. But obviously we wouldn't have that hindsight anyway. But yeah, I think we would have. Do you know what? I don't think just because of where we are, and it sounds a bit blasé, I don't think we could have done anything different quicker. I think just due to how busy we were and the kind of just trying to get the basics right, meant we wouldn't have any kind of time spare to do anything differently. I think we went about it. And this is kudos to all the business, not me. You know, everybody really did pull together. And again, it's that, you know, you talk about you love hearing sayings. It's that whole people, process, and placement. It's having all those together that makes the machine work. And we were very fortunate. Our people side, as I said earlier, we've got a great team, and they all pulled together. Brilliant. Even when they didn't want, you know, even if they wasn't their skill set, they would learn it quickly and try and pull it together. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, probably nothing, to be honest. That sounds really blasé, but yeah, nothing.
Well, I mean, given you said at the start you were already sort of planning to work remotely, to build a remote model, you're ahead of the game, which is great. There's a great book actually called Long Distance Leadership that we've done a few presentations on, and it's come primarily for a couple of guys from the US that wrote it several years ago, because they get over there, a lot of their work has always had to be remote. In my business, we ended up doing some work over there, and they're just used to conference calls and everything, just because you can't just drive down the road 500 miles to have a meeting. So you have to use this technology. I think it's quite interesting that because you're already ahead of it, it probably that makes perfect sense. So
a prime example of that is Ocado, who have just risen above Tesco on the stock market, who was classed as a charity case prior to COVID. Everybody's like, look at those guys over there losing money left, right, and centre, and now they're just firing past all due to circumstances. They couldn't have planned it any better.
Totally, and it's taken advantage of it, isn't it? It's we work with a local business that provides technology into the call centre market, so it supports call centres, and their most recent development or offering is in the cloud. So most call centres are actually hard. Yeah, so it was just like perfect timing, and they're just doing really well. But rapid growth is as challenging as slow or no growth. So it's a different set of challenges, but those things need to happen. No, that's fascinating. So
sorry, because I just thought about your question about what I do March the 1st. I'd have the conversations with the clients sooner about adoption, change, and that kind of change of pay structure to suit them better, to help them over the rough times. I would brought that forward. There you go. That's
yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think, you do what we do, helping people with business growth, business strategy, those sorts of things. We found a lot of people wanting leadership, not just from us, but from people like yourself that can say, look, we do have an idea of how to go forward. And businesses and organisations, even you think probably have got it sorted. A lot of them, when we spoke to them, they still were benefiting from, what are your ideas? How do you think it's going to pan out? So I think, we don't have to be leadership on our services. It's just like, this is what we think the future looks like. People are more interested in people's views. So having a view, which is leadership, it's like, this is follow us. We will help you get where you want to go in whatever service or product that we offer. So I would agree with you that I think we didn't realise how much this whole world is. I don't know if you're aware of the idea of the pattern interrupt. The pattern is the way we normally think. And a pattern interrupt totally disrupts that. So people like Darren Brown and stuff, they have tools to do that in terms of suggestion. But, one of the guys that worked with me a while ago, he said, COVID's been a global pattern interrupt. Nobody knows what it's going to be like anymore. So we're searching for some surety of what might it be like. So anyone that's a leader of thoughts and ideas is going to be welcomed in whatever they do. So it's great. That's great to hear the way you're talking, because that's clearly leadership is inherent to everything you do. So thinking about leadership and the future, let's take ourselves forward to whatever date. I have no idea what this date is, and I guess you don't. So everything's starting to get back to a bit more of a new normal. What are you most looking forward to about when we can actually look back at this rather than still being in the middle of it?
Sure. I go back to what I was saying to you earlier about there is opportunity in these times still. We just talked about Ocado, who have accelerated. Amazon have certainly shown how technology, data, and infrastructure can change a business and take it from zero to hero. The only thing I've truly missed in these times is meeting people face to face and having a good lunch and a nice glass of wine in a sociable environment. So that's what I'd probably reflect and say, look, I wish I could have done more of that, or I could have engineered that a bit more. From a business perspective, even though it is really tough and you have to make some hard decisions, I've learned more about the business, myself, and my colleagues than I ever have done before. So, yes, there's horrificness to do with COVID. I'm not going to deny that, the deaths, the way it's really stretches. It's also highlighted to us about how to kind of communicate on a mass scale, just by looking at the different governments on how they've interacted with community around COVID. You can take those examples and implement them to your own business and go, well, hang on, Britain's done an okay job, America, not so much, but then you've got the Scandinavian countries done very well. China, great way of communicating, do it or die, I suppose. But, but you can take this and learn from it. And I think that's Yeah, I'm just looking forward to freedom a bit more in a social way rather than business way. And I'm sure, I think you've got to get yourself ready for that time. What you're saying is a bit more normality, if we want to call it that, because there'll be an acceleration of opportunity come at that point. And if you're not ready for it, your competitors will be in that position and they will take your market share. So I think you've got to be really forearm, a bit brave as well. You know, you're saying earlier about that whole hand-holding exercise. Yeah, leadership really needs to say, look, let's be bold, let's be brave.
Yep.
Let's see where the gaps are in the market and where the gaps will be in the market and make sure we are positioned to take that on.
Great. I mean, I love it. I mean, 100%. I think, right now is probably one of the best opportunities for forward-thinking, progressive organisations, because most of our competition, however you describe them, a lot of them were still hunkered down, waiting for the storm to blow over. Whereas, therefore, everything's in effect up for sale, whether that's competitive businesses, whether it's new clients, because if our competition aren't serving their clients well because they're hunkering down, their clients are going to be open to more marketing. A lot of people aren't marketing because of the situation. Therefore, our marketing message is way more powerful right now than it will be later. So it is that. I was told a while ago that there's in one of the Chinese dialects, I can't remember which one, that there's a symbol. The word for problem has two parts. One is for challenge and one is for opportunity.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah, very like that. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, Alistair. I don't know which one. I don't know if it's true, but I think somebody said.
Sounds good, Chris. Though it sounds good. I'm in. I'm bought in. You've got me sold. I'm there.
Absolutely. If it isn't true, it should be. So that's okay. So yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. There's more advances made in challenging times than in normal times because we don't need to do that. That's why we've moved forward technological wise more in the we've done 6 months worth of moving, 6 years worth of moving forward in 6 months, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a massive accelerator, COVID, for technology.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we wouldn't be doing this if it hadn't been for that situation. It would have been, So you said something around it's really interesting. You said you've learned a lot. You've learned so much. What would be the top things you've learned about yourself over the last over this period?
One of the key things is you can't do so. Prior to COVID, you'd walk from meeting to meeting. You'd have that kind of thinking space time. I didn't realise how much of that time I needed to make sure I was actually being productive. So in the first few months of COVID, I'd been literally stacked back to back. So on my Outlook calendar, I had blue for Zoom meetings, red for myself, my time meetings, and that kind of stuff. So,
yep.
And at the beginning, it was all blue. It was like blue, blue, blue. And I was like, well, that's slightly overwhelming, but I'm quite happy to stare at a screen. I can do that. But it's amazing how much it drains you from doing this kind of interaction. It's so much easier just to have someone sat in front of you and talk to them. And I had to learn very quickly to go, do you know what? No, not going to talk to you. If you want to talk to me, it's in half an hour's time or an hour's time, whatever it might be. So I had that time to reflect, A, on the call I just had, B, on the other parts I had at hand. And it was becoming I realized I had to become a lot better at managing my time and my actions and my allocation, which in the past I took for granted because it was kind of done for me because I live in Harrogate. Our business is in Manchester. So I always have that 2 hours drive sometimes where I could just go, right, let's just think about stuff. Let's just get things in perspective and let's understand it. Where now I'd be like, bing, and I have another one coming up and the one go, bing, bing. Oh, bollocks, do that. Do you know what I mean? You'd have this constant flow. So that's one thing I definitely learned about myself in COVID, which I'm getting better at, I must admit. If you ask my wife, she'll probably say not, but I think I'm getting better at it. What else have we learned in COVID? How hard it is to create that community feel when everybody is working remotely. And it's it's even harder to put yourself in other people's shoes as well, because when you're in office, you talk about things like, I'm having a problem because my wife, it's got an operation coming up or something other. But when you're on these, they're so focused about what's at hand because you've got that block of time. There's no time for that. How you do? There's none of that kind of love factor or feelings factor.
Yeah. So
that was a learning curve of how do we get that into the business and how do I get better at it? Because my wife, I'm not great with feelings. I'm not one of those guys, but I wish I was better, but there was no, conflict. They could be so careful nowadays. But how do I get better at that? And I've had a coach get me better at that. The other thing during COVID is we've been using LinkedIn a lot more and but not doing posts, but actual videos. And I hate seeing myself on video. I can't stand it. And it takes about 20 takes to get a video out, which is only 20 seconds worth. But again, it's that learning curve. It's taking yourself out of that comfort zone that you might not really want to do. But yeah, that's been another learning curve. And I think COVID again accelerated that kind of medium of saying, how do we get on social media? And it's interesting, a good friend of mine, Matt Robson, who also is the director of a competitor of ours, but we've known each other since school days. And he was saying how it's easier to go from a little video on LinkedIn of, say, someone like me saying, right, this is what you need to do about data quality, to then jumping onto a Zoom call because you've already had that kind of video interaction. Where if you're going from a LinkedIn post or a document, there's an extra step of that kind of feeling comfortable, where if you're seeing me every day or twice a week or 3 times a week on LinkedIn talking to you like this, it's like, oh, that's normal. I can, barrier's broken. So that's been a learning curve as well.
Absolutely.
That answer the question, Chris? I don't know. I think I kind of answered it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You answered the question. No, it's. I mean, it's just different people learn different things about themselves and about the environment. One thing, again, what you said, I totally concur with, is as leaders, and one of the things we have to, any of us, there is no such thing as no communication. There's so much non-verbal communication that we do. And people miss that, so that, just the way when we were all in an office, the way you would walk past through the team to, past your team, even if you said nothing, would convey a certain message, confident, happy, and that's now missing. So although we might sit and talk, and yet you probably do less of the social interaction, even just that, how are we appearing right now? We don't do as much. So we actually have to replace that consciously, rather than the subconscious communication we used to do just by walking to the room and how we said hello. How you say hello can convey, that word can convey so many different messages, depending on the tonality, and the volume and all those things. So they're consciously looking and seeing, how do I need to do things differently? How do I replace each of the things I used to do without even probably realizing it is really, really key. So no, it's a great answer.
And interesting enough, what you just said there about how you act and your kind of persona coming towards them. On these calls, I've realised that people actually watch you more. So there's also the reverse side. So when you are doing Zoom, you can't kind of do that because you bust it straight away, aren't you? Because people got you, yeah, you there. You do feel the eyes prey on you, like, oh, right, okay.
Absolutely.
Back, smile, all that kind of stuff.
It is another skill to learn. It's, it is a different technology. Like we've had to learn different things, different ways of working, and it is different again. And, as I say, probably, I'm naturally expressive, but probably we need to be more expressive because there's a little bit of remoteness between us. Whereas, you could probably get your message across without a level of expression when you're sitting with somebody, but when you're remote, it just adds a little bit of animation and I guess interest for the eye. It's like we want to be engaged. So if we just sort of sat deadpan and that, that's a short call, isn't it? That's not going to last very long.
It's not going to work.
Cool. Well, look, one sort of last thing, just to sort of wrap up, and I think it's a great way to think about it. What, from your perspective, what does the future look like for you and the business?
We're actively trying to grow and scale the business at the moment. So we've now got that foundation that we've implemented over the last few months to support that growth and scale. Now it's going out to market and acquiring it. And we're looking at partners, we're looking at potential M&A. There's all those different ways to do that. It's now navigating our way through it to get there. But yeah, growth, touch wood, growth and scale. We do not, if you stand still, you're left behind. It's no point.
Totally agree.
In it to win it, Chris. In it to win it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Michael Gerber says that, a business is like a tree. It's either growing or dying. There is no standing still. So there's a great story about Tony Benn, Sir Anthony Wedgwood Benn, who's obviously no longer with us, the Labour MP. And when he retired from the Houses of Parliament, he would do a lot of speeches at universities. And so he'd speak to a group of students. And the first thing he always said, and which really hacked off all the lecturers, was, we all wake up every day knowing less than we did yesterday. And all the lecturers, you can't say that. That's, you know, how could you be in an educational forum? You can't say that. And what he meant was that the world is developing so fast. The amount of information in the world is growing exponentially, and so our piece of it is declining. So
usually.
Yeah, I mean, so probably absolutely bang on with what you do, but consequently, we have to, we cannot change. Change is happening around us all the time, and if we don't, it's not a big. A friend of mine, I remember he said he upgraded. There's a phrase: if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. Yes. And he said, look, you have to upgrade it. Basically, if you always do what you always did, you're toast. Your history. It's so it's great that you're looking forward, you're planning, you're strategizing, and you're taking the opportunity during COVID to do that and build structure for growth. So thank you so much, Alasdair. It's been absolutely fascinating. I'm sure people are going to pull a lot of things out of this from what you said, and with your permission, I'd love to interview in 6 months and 12 months and just see how the story unfolds. It'd be wonderful to do that.
That'd be perfect to be our year end then as well, so I can give you a bit more foolproof or clarification how we've done. So that'd be good.
Oh, that would be really wonderful. We'll make sure that gets booked in. Perhaps you could book that in just at the end of this call, just so we know we've got it in. I look forward to that. So on that note, thank you so much, Alasdair. Any last thoughts before we?
Just if you are a business owner out there, I'll just try and get your business to understand not to fear technology, but how to embrace it. It's there to replace the kind of moronic parts of their roles, not the kind of innovative and thought-thinking side of things. Think of it as helping them to actually do better what they do and give them more time to do what they enjoy in their role, rather than the negative side. And that's true about technology. It's not there to replace them. It's there to enhance them. That'd be my kind of piece to say. And if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, please do. My name's on the Zoom call. There's not many Alasdair Moores in Harrogate. Happy to talk to anybody.
We'll make obviously on the call there'll be some details as well, so people will find it easy to do so. Wonderful. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I love it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.